Okay, let's talk about, oh my gosh, this is such an important one to talk about, especially this year. Okay, the pro-lifers that constantly straw man bodily autonomy arguments.
I see it on our social media every single day.
Every day.
We just talked about the fact that we got a TikTok, right? We are now on TikTok. Please go follow us on TikTok. And that means that a few minutes of my day every day, I am scrolling through the pro-life TikTok space, which is pretty tiny, and seeing what other kinds of pro-life content people are putting out on TikTok.
Yeah.
And 90% of it is people strawmanning bodily autonomy. I cannot tell you how many videos I have watched of very well-meaning pro-life people that are about my age being like, I want to make a difference on pro-life TikTok. And I'm like, yes, please be doing that. But you've got to do it better than this, because making a video of yourself saying it is not your body, therefore it is not your choice. Done. Mic drop. So not helpful.
Yeah.
Like,
But Emily, don't you know that women don't have 4 hands and 4 feet?
It's painful because I've used that argument before a long time ago. Like I used to have one of my cool stories I used to tell people was when I debated, not really debated, I was at a fair booth, but I had a back and forth dialogue with, he was running as a Democrat for either Senate or a House or something like that. But like we had a little dialogue about abortion. And my mic drop moment at the end was the, oh my gosh, I can't believe it was the 4 eyes, 2 noses, 20 fingers thing, because that's what I had been taught to say in response to, but as part of her body. And I didn't realize that is not what hardly any pro-choice person actually means. They don't literally think it's like an organ. There are some.
Yeah, really, this is where our experiences differ again.
Yeah.
I think.
Okay. So I want you to jump in and talk about it, because we've had this conversation many times before, and that's part of why I invited you on. But for me, the most of the pro-choice people that I talk to, because I will ask them the clarification question when you say it's a part of her body or whatever. Do you mean X, Y, or Z? And almost none of them are making not a bodily autonomy argument. They're not saying it's not a person because it's dependent, and they're not saying that it's literally a part of her body like a kidney. They're saying because of a woman's bodily autonomy, there would be a government overreach to say that women cannot do this thing with their body or something in their body or something that is that connected to their body, like something like that. There's multiple versions of bodily rights arguments. We got a whole landing page that Monica made me make, by the way. The landing page, the bodily rights landing page that we have.
I use that a lot, by the way.
Monica was like, please make me a landing page of all your bodily rights stuff. I will link to it all the time. So I was like, okay, I will do that.
We link to it on our landing page. We have a section about bodily rights, and we're like, here's equal rights part. Just go look at their stuff.
I love secular politics. So we will link to that.
Thank you, Monica.
Yeah. I do agree with you. I basically mostly agree with you on all of it. The only difference is, even in our circles, it's pretty rare that they mean it literally as a body part, but sometimes they do. We talk about biology a lot, and so it's probably selection bias that people were bringing into the fore. But especially on Twitter, we do have people that try to argue literally that it's not a separate entity. They're still the minority, for sure. But I think that when you throw them into the mix, I get that pro-lifers are straw manning, but I sympathize with them because it's kind of a complex topic, and sometimes they're actually not. Usually they are, though. But depending on who they're responding to, they might not be. So I pretty much, it's a minority case, but there are definitely people out there that are saying it literally, like comparing it to. We have a lot of debates about what constitutes an organism versus an organ versus whatever, and there's a lot of miseducation about it. So maybe some of them are responding to that.
I think it's more understandable for people to be confused about the definition of an organism than it's literally a part of her body. Like I know, like when I think, at least in my experience, and you know, everyone jump in if you have a different experience, but like for me, when I have had dialogues with pro-choice people about the biological side of this debate, the portion of the debate that relates to science and biology, it's usually them just confused about organism, and they think that skin cells or sperm cells or whatever are also, they have living human DNA too. So aren't they persons too? And they just don't understand what I'm talking about yet. And I have to clarify or explain what an organism is. And like, fine. And it doesn't usually take that long. We usually move into another thing. So definitely part of this is also just that selection bias thing, where if a lot of my dialogues are on college campuses where people are just on generally making better arguments, Philosophy 101, most students are being taught like the violinist argument and stuff like that. So we're hearing typically pretty good pro-choice arguments, and a lot of the worst ones are just sort of getting filtered out. Whereas Monica's been talking to a lot of people online.
Yes.
For whatever
And I
reason-
imagine the people you're seeing on TikTok are also probably talking to a lot of people online. And so you guys have a kind of work where you filter for a very specific echelon of pro-choice arguments. And I don't think it represents what most, like, the average pro-choice American is saying most of the time. I think it's very important because you need to be able to address the best pro-choice arguments. But I sympathize with the people where they're not experiencing that. That's not what they're experiencing, especially on Twitter or wherever.
Yeah.
So.
Right. And I think a lot of times pro-choice people can be very unclear with the words that they choose, especially online. I think that most of the pro-choice people who are saying really weird things in my TikTok comments that like come off really stupid, I'm like, I don't think if I actually could sit down and have a conversation with you that that's what you mean. I really do think you're making a bodily autonomy argument. The problem is you don't know how to articulate that.
You're helping
You've never
them
thought
do it
about
better.
that much. Right, exactly. And so they're going to say a thing that sounds awfully like they're confused about the biology. And so I understand why a pro-life person is going to be like, yeah, well, they're just confused about the biology.
Right.
And so the problem is I've talked to enough pro-choice people that I know that's probably not what they actually mean.
Yeah.
But I understand that it sounds like that's what they mean because a lot of pro-choice people who maybe haven't been through Philosophy 101 are going to say things that sound really stupid.
Right.
Well, you
And
just don't have the
kinda have to-
vernacular. Yeah.
Right. They don't have the vernacular to talk about it. And so they're going to say things that come across like they mean not what I think they actually mean if you were to ask them questions and find out.
So a couple of key points for pro-lifers to remember, even those of you that don't feel like you're very philosophical, that's totally fine. Understand pro-choice people are often super vague with their rhetoric, or they're using shorthand because they're on Twitter or whatever. And so if you think you know what they're saying, you very well might not. Ask more clarification questions. And if they're saying something that sounds super stupid, there's extra likelihood that you don't understand them yet. I know there are people making stupid pro-choice arguments, just like there are people making stupid pro-life arguments. I'm not saying that never happens. You can ask a bunch of clarification questions and be like, oh yeah, your argument is actually that bad. I've had that experience. I'm just saying a lot of the time, in 3 clarification questions, I'm going to find out, oh, okay, they mean something more nuanced. They just didn't say it very well. I am happy to help them make their argument more clearly so that I can then respond to it more clearly.